If I couldn't put skis on when I was going up there, I didn't go. I don't know if you don't have any skiing at Pemberton, do you? That's past Whistler, isn't it? Is Vancouver worth the cost? Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I was born and raised here, and I spent 20 years in Australia as an adult. I love that. But yeah, if you can afford it, I think so. It is an expensive city. Vancouver's horribly expensive. Anyway, so, I'm on live now, YouTube. YouTube crashed. It wouldn't let me on before, but now we're back on. Okay, so anyway, how many people we've got? Oh, it's really tiny so far. We'll just get going with your, am I on the wrong? No, I am on the right one. Sometimes it'll be a really slow start. I know it's Sunday at 5 here, 5 p.m., so it's a bad time to do a live, but I just come on when I feel like it, so I just have time right now. Yeah, sometimes it's a slow start, and it's because I'm on my private channel, and I'm often on my wrong one. I'm a bit dopey sometimes. Okay, so your parenting questions anytime you want. If you go on the link above, it's got everything there that I've got to offer. You can hire me for coaching, buy one of my courses, or download my free behavior board. You're on that behavior board too. That's what makes it different, and that's what makes it work. Because I teach leadership. You've got to be accountable. You lead by example. So they're watching you. Kids aren't listening to you. They're watching you. So if you're accountable, they're more likely to be accountable. Plus, then they have a say, that you want them to have a say in how their life goes. Is it right to parent to make their oldest a second parent for the youngest? I don't think so. I've heard of this. Yeah, where you have tons. Sometimes it's huge families. They do that. Like, the Duggars, they're very famous for that. They had like a buddy system going. An older kid was basically parenting a younger kid. And as all those kids grew up, they resented it. They lost their childhood because they were so busy looking after a little one. So yeah, babysitting once in a while, but not parenting. That's not their choice. So yeah, I wouldn't do that. Well, dye my hair blue and call me Marge because I love you, homie. Didn't really understand all that, but thank you. I know that's The Simpsons, right? And homie, that's a nice term. I don't know. I'm not very street. I'm in my 60s. I'm lucky I know how to go on here. You know what's funny is when I see older people in a cafe with a phone, they always do this. Like, they don't use their thumbs when they're pushing buttons. I know it's a toilet roll. It's where I store my cords for my chargers. Anyway, so they always go like this. Every so often I'll catch myself doing that and I'll look around. Ooh, never mind. Go back to my thumbs. Okay. So parenting questions. What have you got for me? What do I do when I find out my kid has verbally bullied a friend? Okay, so you find out your kid is the bully. I would put on the behavior board, no being mean to other people. And I would explain what you found out. Do not use the word bully. It's a name calling thing, and you don't use that. Just say, don't be mean to other people. And then explain why you put that on the board, and then say, we don't want that to happen. Because the next time that happens, they have to do something nice for that person. So they have to give them something they love. They have to give it to them. I would do that. I'd go hardcore with that. That would be something I'd come in hard with that. 5-year-old getting in lots of trouble at kindergarten. Generally, that means that you're not a leader at home. When you're a leader at home, by the time they're at the age 3.5 to 4, they kind of carry your leadership umbrella everywhere they go. What I mean by that is when they respect you, they tend to respect everybody because they have self-respect. They're proud of themselves. They're proud of their behavior. So work on your leadership skills. That's what I'm assuming it is. That's the most common reason why kids act out at school. Also, parents say, well, they're good as gold at home. But often you're the pleaser parent style. So you're giving in to all their demands. Everything goes their way at home. And at school, it doesn't. So that's one of the main reasons why they act out more at school, if you're the pleaser parent instead of the leader. So yeah, leaders raise children with self-respect who respect themselves and others, right? So they don't tend to cause problems. Okay. Oh, yeah. Definitely don't look like you're in your 60s. Talk to us about health and wellness tips. You wouldn't want to hear what I have to say. My lifestyle is very radical. It revolves around health and fitness. And I do talk about that on my personal channel. Not a lot, though. I don't talk about my personal life. I just talk about how I love to clean, how I love to eat, and how I love to work out. So, yeah. And I raised my kids. Both my kids go to the gym. And my daughter and I, we go to the gym every morning, go to the same gym every morning. So they're both really into fitness. My daughter's extreme as I am with food. My son is not as much that way with food, but he is that way with he's very into exercise. So yeah, that it was very important to me to raise kids who were into health and fitness, but they didn't have to be as radical as me. But yeah, so that's not really of interest. You don't want to hear what I have to say about all that. Plus, I don't preach it. Like, it's just to each his own, right? Like, I am an extreme. Um, I'm vegan, but I'm not. I always say this too, though, is I don't like hanging out with vegans because they tend to have the self-righteous way about them. I'm not like that. Like, you can sit right beside me. You can sit right. I know I just got a notice from TikTok. You can sit right beside me with a big pile of ribs and I'll probably drool over them. So to each his own, right? You do you. You do what makes you feel good. I know what makes me feel good. I like to look and feel a certain way, and I live my life to feed that. Sounds so preachy. Whatever. Okay. How to deal with teens with a lot of anxiety. Okay, when they're younger and they have anxiety, I say set yourself up as a leader. Why is TikTok telling me I may crash? I've got a lot of lives saved on here, but still, I shouldn't crash. TikTok's telling me I might crash. So if I crash, sorry, it's TikTok. Don't know why that would be. Anyway, when they're young children and they have anxiety, they feed off of you because you're their leader. So it means if you're a leader, they don't tend to have anxiety. They tend to be more sort of level and just calmer. They just don't tend to stress out as much. When they're teenagers, they are more influenced by outsiders, not as much as if you're a leader, they still go to you first. But I don't know what's going on with your teenager. There's a whole bunch of other stuff it can be. I can't generalize with teenagers. So you would have to hire me for that. That's coaching, that's up above. My website crashed the other day, so I just talked to my server today. I think it's back up again. So yeah, I know I've been getting emails about that. We can't get coaching because your website. Yeah, I know. It's just crashed. Nothing I can do. It would pop up and I go, oh, it's up. And then it would crash again. They supposedly fixed it today. Can you start disciplining your kid at 3 years old, or is it too late? Because, oh my goodness, 3, that's just tiny. I specialize in teenagers. It's never too late. It's never too late. It just gets harder and it takes longer. But at 3, you're right at the start. So yeah, don't worry about it. It's not too late. I have a full course on that if you're interested. It's Bratbusters Boot Camp. How to get respect in 5 weeks. That starts at the age of 3. Yeah, 3-year-old hitting themselves when he's upset. He does that because it upsets you. Okay, so yeah, I would just hold him and say no. When he gets upset, say no, and just hold his hand and restrain him from hitting himself. That's all I would do. But yeah, and don't make a big deal out of it. Calm, calm, calm. Okay, I was a crazy mother. I'm kind of a kind of crazy person anyway. Like, I like silly stuff. So I was crazy 99.9% of the time. But if kids ever needed disciplining, I was calm, very quiet, whispered pretty much. So it's really key when you're disciplining or dealing with serious stuff or stuff that they're upset about, you stay calm. It's almost like you're whispering. Go in slow motion. Say no. Then you hold his hand when he's trying to hit himself. Say no. And you can just restrain him. You can let him go every so often. If he goes to hit, say no. And then just look away. Now he's 3. It's a little bit different if he's 2, but if he's 3, that's how I would deal with it. 20-month-old, little behind in talking. He's throwing a lot and pushing boundaries. Well, I don't know. Behind in talking, there's all these benchmarks that you're supposed to reach. So I've known kids who didn't talk till they were 3 and they were just fine. Then they never shut up after that. So he's throwing out and pushing boundaries. Yeah, he's just a toddler. I have a bunch of toddler courses up above if you're interested in that. If you're really struggling and you want my one-on-one help, that's coaching. You have to hire me for that. It's all done on Zoom. Yeah, toddlers are crazy. I'm going to read my top 5 toddler tips. Okay, so this is if you're the parent of a toddler. These are my top 5 tips. Child-proof your home so you never have to say the word no. Number 2 is do a toy rotation system so they're never bored. And also they're not overwhelmed. They're not overstimulated. So I rotated all the toys maybe once a week, once every 2 weeks, whatever. And then number 3 is enter their world when you want to bond with them, when you want to connect with them, when you want to play with them. Enter their world. You don't take a 3-year-old to the nail salon to bond with them. You play Lego, you play dolls, you go to the park, you roll down the hill. You always bond with them in their world, not in your world. Number 4 is stop trying to figure them out. They're not figure-outable. They don't make any sense. They haven't got sense yet. They're crazy. Well, not so much crazy, but they just haven't formed sane yet. They're not there yet. Their frontal lobe is like a little feather just hanging there. It's just sort of a thought. It's not nothing going on there yet. Like they're one marble and some tumbleweed floating around in there. They're just brand new, fresh human beings. Imagine if you were 2 years old and for the first year you were just a potato laying on a mattress. How can you have any concept of the world? They don't have any concept of the world yet. So yeah, they're just crazy. Number 5, stop with the mini therapy sessions. Don't discuss when they're naughty and they do something bad. Just say no, and you do consistent corrective actions if you're disciplining. You don't talk to them. You don't have these mini therapy sessions about their feelings and all that stuff. It's garbage. I know it's popular. That was invented to make the mom feel good, to absolve her of any guilt not being able to handle her toddler. That's what that was all invented for. I saw it coming 30 years ago. That started coming out 30 years ago, and I thought, oh, we're in big trouble. And as it progressed, I thought we're going to be raising self-entitled snowflakes with mental health issues. Look where we are. Anyway, I know it's trendy. It's just garbage. Drives me nuts because I have to fix all that damage, right? So anyway, that's my 5 top tips. 5 top tips. I should come up with another name for that. I hate 5 top toddler tips. See, I said it wrong there. I knew that was going to happen. I'm going to have to come up with a new name. Okay. Dealing with hitting our animals under 2. If your animals are not safe, rehome them. I've actually had clients who've rehomed their animals. It's not fair to innocent little animals to get beaten and tortured and abused. Get rid of them. Just find a new home, new loving home for them. It's not fair. If you can't control your toddler and keep them separate from the animals, rehome the animals. I'm an animal lover. There's no way. My kids knew they were never allowed to pick up our dog or stick their hand in the bird cage. They just knew that if they did, oh my goodness, mom would have come storming in, but they just wouldn't have done it because they learned how to respect animals from day one. So, and if they didn't, I would have rehomed the animals. Guaranteed, I wouldn't put animals through that. I'm an early childhood teacher and learn a lot from you. Thank you. You're very welcome. I don't teach teaching because I wouldn't have a clue how to do it. I stay in my lane. A lot of stuff crosses over, but a lot doesn't. That's why a huge portion of my clients are teachers, school counselors, principals, child psychologists. It's a huge portion of my clientele. It's not that they struggle more with parenting, it's that they are learners. And they also think that because they have these big degrees that parenting is going to be a piece of cake. They're different. One's an institution, one's personal. They're just different. I couldn't do what they do. So yeah, that's why they hire me. Top 5 tips for toddlers. Yeah, top 5 tips. I'll write that down. That might be easier to say. Tips for toddlers. It reminds me of the time I talk fast and I don't have a good filtering system. I never worry about what I'm saying. I just say what I'm thinking. It gets me in trouble sometimes. I was speaking to a school and there was about 600 people in the audience. And I was saying, and they commented, I'm always making fun of myself. That's part of my delivery. It loosens the audience up. I'm making jokes about myself, all the dumb parenting things I did. So anyway, and someone said, oh, you're very good at making fun of yourself or something. And I said, yeah, I'm very into I meant to say self-deprecating humor, but I said, of course, the other one. The other didn't say deprecating, did I? And I didn't know what I'd said. And the whole audience just went, and then they just cracked up. And then someone off stage had to tell me what I'd said. So yeah, I say dumb things all the time. Glad you like the name. Yeah, top 5 tips for toddlers. I think that's easier to say. Thank you. You guys help me out a lot because, yeah, you come to the rescue. I did gentle parenting and now my 4-year-old is unmanageable. Oh, I don't critique that. I stay in my lane. The only method that I talk about is the pleaser parent style, and that is an umbrella. And I don't know what other people are teaching, only what my clients tell me. And even then I say, don't tell me where that came from because I don't want to have to critique other people or other specific methods. But there's a lot of methods under that pleaser parent. I don't know which ones they are. So I stay in my lane. I'm very careful about that. I've been asked to go on panels, like basically arguing our different parenting styles. I'm not going to get on a stage, and I mean big shows too, big American national shows. I'm not going to get on a stage and argue with some other parenting expert. There's room for all of us. I just would find that very uncomfortable. No, you're wrong. You're wrong. I couldn't do that. It would just make me cringe. Okay. What do you think about natural consequences? You're going to have to give me an example. You mean the punishment fits the crime? But I don't know what you mean. Okay. How do I learn to stop yelling at my 6-year-old when he does something that triggers me? Okay, that's on you. If you're triggered, you're not a leader. You are a reactor. That's a follower. So leaders do not react. When things are going awry, they lead. So you've got to set yourself up as a leader. That's not your kid, that's you. We don't teach kidding here, we teach parenting. We're not fixing kids, we're fixing and teaching parents. So you set yourself up as a leader, you won't need to yell and you certainly won't be triggered. If a kid was ever acting out around me, my son used to say, because when I was looking after kids or something and they'd act out, and they used to say this, my son used to say, "This is what you look like, Mom." Because I love it. That's an opportunity for me to exercise my leadership. My kids didn't give me that. I got it cemented when they were tiny, so there was just self-disciplining. But other kids would push me, and I loved it because I got to exercise my leadership. So look at it that way. It's an opportunity. Don't be afraid of tantrums. Don't be afraid of scenes or fits or any of that stuff. Look at those as opportunities. Once you get good at managing them, you'll get it. I've had clients who say, "I will never understand that. That doesn't make any sense at all." After a few sessions, they go, "I get it." It's an opportunity because there's a lesson behind every scene. If you can control yourself and act like a leader, there's a lesson behind that for you, more so for your kid. And they will start to react to you. You want them to react to you because you want to be the leader. If you're not a leader for your children, they're going to look elsewhere for it. They naturally need, crave, and want a leader. They're going to be very vulnerable out there in the world. Once they hit school, they're going to be vulnerable to peer pressure, bullying, the drug dealer on the corner, the internet, the Kardashians. They're going to be very vulnerable out there because they're searching for a leader. That's all they're doing. If they've got one at home, they don't do that. They're very rarely bullied or susceptible to peer pressure, any of that, because they've got a leader at home. Why would they be vulnerable? They're strong. When they have a leader at home, it strengthens them. It increases their self-esteem and their confidence. They feel safe. They've got a safe place to land. They can tell you anything, and you're there to problem solve with them. "Hey, Mom, what did I do about this?" "I don't know. Let's figure it out together." Like you're a leader. You're strengthening them. You're building up strong, confident individuals. That's your goal. Not complacent little obedient soldiers. That's ridiculous. That's garbage. You don't want that. You want strong individuals who respect themselves and others. Any advice or experience with young kiddos with Down syndrome? Yeah, I've got tons of experience with disabled children and Down syndrome. I don't consider that a disability necessarily, but I work with severe disabilities. So yeah, but that's all coaching. It's more of a specialties thing. Have you ever seen a 3-year-old just refuse to talk? He's not on the spectrum, just to find any tips. Does he talk when it suits him? And that is, what's that called? Something muteness. What's it called? There's a term for that. Selective muteness or something like that. It's not selective hearing, that's another thing, but selective muteness. Have you heard of that? Am I getting that right? Is that the right term? Selective mutism. Yeah. So selective muteness. I've worked with that. So yeah, I've heard of it. I've come up against some really interesting things in coaching. I've been doing this for 17 years. And I always say I've seen and heard everything because I used to specialize in crisis work with abused children and teenagers and all sorts of life and death stuff. And then in the last year or so, something came up that I had never come across before. And it was really challenging. It was a very young child too. And it was something I had never heard of. And it was extremely rare. This child was working with psychiatrists and that too. And it was very interesting, very nice little child. But it was a really interesting challenge. And but yeah, it's rare that I come up against something I haven't dealt with. And if I haven't, see, I've dealt with so much stuff anyway. But that one kind of threw me for a loop for a minute. I had to stop and think. Are there any simple tips for starting out leadership? Yeah, start with my behavior board. If they're 3 years old and over, start with my behavior board. That's the level 1. There's a whole bunch more to it, but that just gets you going. It teaches you that you're accountable, that you give respect to get it. You don't just expect to get it. You don't demand respect. You command it. You earn it. You got to work for it. And that's what the behavior board teaches you. That's level 1. That's completely free. That's in the link above. Also in that link, I've got some courses. One of the courses is Bratbusters Bootcamp. That teaches you how to be a leader in 5 weeks. That's more intensive. And then coaching is, of course, the next level up. But the if you're just having normal everyday problems that everyone else is, disrespect, yelling, hitting, all that sort of bullying, all that sort of stuff, that the course would cover that. If you really want extra, if you have teenagers or you want extra help with certain other things, or your marriage is in trouble because of it, that would be more coaching. And some people just want the one-on-one. It's all done on Zoom, so it doesn't matter where you live. But some people want the one-on-one. How do you control a 3-year-old during a tantrum? You don't. What do you mean? You don't. How do you control a 3-year-old during? What do you mean by control? If they're getting physical and violent, you physically restrain them. But you don't look at them or talk to them. You just say no, and then you physically restrain them. Let them go, give them a chance to stop hitting and that. And then if they do again, just say no. And you're calm, slow, quiet. I don't even care if they hear you. Just they might just see this. The calmer you are, the better. It's like you're almost half asleep. The calmer you can come across, the better. Okay, good. Good question. If my kid was bullied, does that mean I'm not a strong enough leader, or can it happen as a leader too? It can happen when you're a leader also, but you know how to sort of stop that. You do that through role playing. It's in my course, in my uh, boot camp course. But anyway, what you do with kids who are being bullied is you teach them how to deal with bullies. So yeah, and we're all gonna be bullied once. Okay. I'll tell you how I was bullied. It only happened once. I was in grade 2. And then you get a reputation, like, don't bother with her. She knows what she's doing, right? Like you get a reputation, because I went through the same schools from kindergarten to grade 12. Not the same school, but all the same kids, basically, with the same area. Anyway, so you know, they don't come near you. But anyway, I was in grade 2 and I had to go to the bathroom in the middle of class. And I was all by myself in the hallway. And that was exciting. And I had the hallway out of myself. I felt so special. Coming out of the principal's office was the grade 5 bully. He was the school bully. He was in grade 5. I was in grade 2, and he was a big kid. He was terrifying. He saw me alone in that hallway, and I had to get past him. I couldn't avoid him. And he was licking his chops. My last name at the time was Hanky. So he comes right in my face, and he goes, Hanky Panky. And I said, I prefer Snot Rag and Boogie Bundle. Oh, well, got to get back to class. I don't even know how I knew to do that. But I was raised, like, my mom's very funny, very witty. So I was raised with humor. So I kind of was a bit quicker with that. But you practice this sort of stuff. And what I had done, I instinctively knew how to do it. He never came near me again, by the way. I agreed with him. I kind of made fun of myself. So I agreed with him. So I didn't put him on the defensive, and I didn't defend myself. And then I changed the subject. I gave him a note. If I hadn't said I got to get back to class, he would have come at me again, probably. But that's what I teach. You agree with the bully. Like another example of that is if someone says, geez, you're ugly. Yeah, it runs in the whole family. Right? You should see my brother. He's even uglier. Like, just laugh it off and then say, oh, what are you having for lunch? The bully will go like this, peanut butter? I don't know. It throws them off. So you role play that at home, though. You can tell kids what to do, which is kind of useless. But when you role play it and they act it out, that's where the gold is. Because if they've already practiced it 10 times at home, by the time they get in front of the bully, it just comes out naturally. So that's how you teach them. So yeah, they can still be bullied, but bullying is ongoing. It's only just a meanness if it only happens once or twice. But bullying is when it's ongoing. So that's what I mean by it. They're generally not bullied when they've got a leader, because the leader knows how to teach them not to get bullied. Well, I don't know if this is a joke or what. I don't know what you're talking about. I really struggle with my 7-year-old. It's like he's a frozen space cadet and just super disconnected. I don't know what you mean by that. Okay. My son's swearing at school, has no remorse. He knows it's wrong. Okay, so I would say to the teacher, can you please let me know every time he swears at school? And then I would say, okay, so I'll tell you what. I would go a little bit, he's fine. Okay, I'd go in a little bit harder with this one, because you really want to stop this. So I would say to him, I'll tell you what, if you go through a whole day without swearing at school, you can have a screen tonight, like an iPad, a phone, a TV, whatever. Okay, so make him earn the screen time. It's a little bit backwards. I don't like to reward good behavior, but because it's at school, you're not there. And that's kind of a big deal. He could get kicked out of school for stuff like that. So I would kind of say, I'll tell you what, if you go through a whole day without swearing, you can have some screen time tonight. Okay. And then say, by the way, if you don't, you know what's happening. If you do swear at school, if you do say a bad word at school, there's no screen time tonight. So he's old enough to understand that. Okay. And just say, that's just the way it is. But I hate you. I hate you. Whatever. I'd lay down the law with that one. Sometimes I deal with families who they have kids who are being kicked out of school. Our methods have to get a little bit drastic, and sometimes I do mix it up. A lot of times I give different advice and coaching because it's just different, because I know I'm there next week to add on to it. But if I'm just giving you, this is my general TikTok live advice, right? So it's sort of more, if you never see me again, it's not bad advice. In coaching, it's quite different. It's more personal. So yeah, a lot of it's quite different in coaching, because I'm there next week to tweak things and figure it all out. Well, my 18 months old is hitting other babies. The word no, well, of course, no isn't working because they're not listening to you. It's all about actions, consistent corrective actions. When you see him, if he's hitting other kids, it's just hard work. You're going to have to be in there like a dirty shirt. And as soon as he goes to hit, you say no and you remove him for a couple of minutes, or remove the baby or something. You've got to do the separation every single time. It's hard work. Parents have said to me, yeah, but I just want to sit and socialize with my friend. I'm like, are you kidding me? Parenting is your first role here. You can't say, well, I don't want to have to look after my kid to protect other kids, because I'm having a cup of tea. That is your job. When you're out with your kid, or your kid's around babies they're hitting, it's your job to protect that baby. Your kid's a weapon, basically. You can't let him hurt other kids. So you just have to make it a chore. It's something you're going to correct, and that's it. He's 18 months old. He can learn. He's not going to learn the first 50 times, probably the 150th time, because they learn through repetition. And with toddlers, it's all consistent corrective actions. Words are useless. You can say the word no, it just triggers the action. That's all it's doing. They're not listening to you at all. What do I do when my son is fighting with his friend? Me and the mom are friends. They are 6. So you've got 2 6-year-old boys and they're fighting and you're friends. Just, if you're really friends with that person, just say, look, our kids aren't getting along right now. How about we just go out for a drink together, go to a movie together? So you just be friends outside of the kids. If you're only friends because of your kids, the friendship's going to end anyway. I had that lots of times with people. If our kids, as they started growing, they started out as babies together in play groups, and then they started separating and they just didn't click. They just didn't get along, or they just didn't really play together. So then the friendship ended. If we didn't see each other outside of our kids, the friendship usually ended, unless the kids continue to be friends. 3-year-old spitting on me lately. How do I respond? Yeah, that's a real dirty thing to do. So I would put that on the behavior board. No spitting on people. I would just say that. That's the rule on the behavior board. The behavior board is completely free. It's up above in the link. And I would put no spitting on people, and there's a consequence for that. So look at the behavior board. It's a full course. It's completely free. It'll explain how you set up rules and consequences. Just sitting back with my ECE, early childhood enrichment. What is that? I don't know. I don't have any degrees, so agreeing with you on everything. Okay. What to do instead of timeout? Pretty much anything else. Timeout's horrible. Just keep following me. Watch me. Just use the behavior board. That teaches you what else to do. If they're under 3, then it's consistent corrective actions. The behavior board starts at the age of 3. So yeah, timeout's horrible. I can't stand it. I think it's humiliating, and I think it's mean. Imagine if your boss did that to you. Hey, you made a mistake on this ledger here. Go sit in the corner, nose to wall. And then after you're done for 10 minutes, or wait a minute, you're 46, sit there for 46 minutes. Then I'm going to come over and discuss everything you did wrong. It's just humiliating. It's degrading. It's demoralizing. It's disrespectful. I think it's horrible. Anyway, how do I feel about timeout? Certain things get me going. Timeout does, because it's so popular. I'm up against it all the time. Usually, though, by the time people hire me now, they already know. They know a lot about this stuff already. So, but before I was really an online presence, I was just doing TV and radio and that sort of stuff. And as the parenting, I'd come on like the parenting expert kind of thing. And people didn't know that much about me. So they'd come up and I'd have to start from scratch every single time. Since I've been on TikTok for a year and a half now, people come already prepared. Yeah, I know it's me. It's not the kids. And I know you hate timeout. Oh, it's just so much easier. Like that first session, we can get right to work. Whereas before, I had to do a lot of, well, we don't do this. We don't, what a leader is. And do I get involved with kids fighting with my friend's kid? If it's physical, pull them apart. I don't know what you mean by that. That depends on what it is. If they just don't like each other, that's one thing. But if they're actually fighting, you separate them. Say, if you guys can't get along, do not do the blame game. I don't care if your kid's friend's kid is bullying your kid. Do not say, well, your kid's a bully. Don't do the blame game unless you want to lose that friend right in that second. So just say, look, they're just not getting along. Let's just separate them for a while, for 10 minutes or whatever. Yeah. When you say consistent corrective action, like if a child is hitting. So no, anytime you want to correct a toddler's bad behavior, I don't care what it is. It could be hitting or anything. You say no, and then you have a consistent corrective action. That could be taking away a toy that they were hitting with. You say no, put that toy away where they can see it. Or you say no, remove them from the fun, remove the fun from them. But don't put them in a corner. That's time out. You're just removing them. You might just be even holding them, but facing away from you. And you're ignoring them. But yeah, there's consistent corrective action. Take away whatever they were doing or whatever. So yeah, they'll learn. It takes time though. Like that's not a one and done. It's like toddlers learn through, because some of my clients are child psychologists and they've explained what this is. Because I say they learn through repetition. It's like a knee-jerk reaction kind of learning. It's like if they touch a hot oven, they're going to touch it 10 more times before they learn not to touch it. They don't learn the first time. It's repetition, right? And there's evidently a way, if they're actually wiring their brain, but they're not really thinking it through. It's more of a knee-jerk reaction. It's like when you're driving somewhere, you're not thinking about driving if you've driven there a million times. It's just a knee-jerk reaction. You learn that way. You just learn because that you turn right and you turn left. It's kind of like that. I don't know what it's called, but if I was to start spouting all these medical terms, I wouldn't know what I was saying anyway. What's your favorite consequence? My absolute favorite consequence, I have millions of them actually, but a common one that works really well, clients love it, is if they have, let's say they have two kids and they have a 9-year-old and a 7-year-old boy, nine and a 7-year-old boy, two boys. Just an example here, okay? The 9-year-old hits the 7-year-old. The consequence is the 9-year-old has to give the 7-year-old his favorite toy to play with for a whole hour. And they can't play together. So it's like the punishment fits the crime. You're mean to someone, you have to do something nice, something that hurts too. You have to give them something that they always want, and you always say, no, it's mine, you can't have it. So sometimes parents will say, I know exactly what that is. And it's something that's just perfect. And it's a really good one. They hardly ever hit again, if ever. It's one of those one and done. It's like the bedtime battles. That's usually one bad night, one night of sheer hell, but then one and done. So that's one of my absolute favorite ones, is the hitting one. When they're older, they can't do that when they're 2. Okay. My 13-year-old is disrespectful and always angry, throws tantrums and things don't go her way. Okay, you'd have to hire me for that, because that just says she's just reflecting your parenting. So that means you're not a leader, but you want to start pulling the leadership stuff away anyway. So teenagers are challenging. You want to change your parenting style. There are 5 different parenting styles, 4 stages of parenting, 4 of them that you will go through as a parent. And I'm going to read them out. And the teen one is quite different. So if you have a baby, 0 to 15 months old, you're nurturing, loving, cuddling. That's about it. That's your parenting style. And then it's consistent corrective action when you want to correct something. But even then, it's more, it's still more loving, right? And then a toddler is 16 to 35 months. With that, you're still cuddling, but there's more play, there's more corrective actions, there's more teaching them things at that point. Then when you have a child that's 3 to 12 years old, you are the same kind of parent in that age group. Now, a 3-year-old is very different from a 12-year-old, but my course, Bratbusters Bootcamp, is 3 to 12-year-olds, because your parenting style is very similar in all those ages. It's different things that come up, but you're still sort of very strongly the leader. Now, when they're 13 plus, the leadership starts to change. They pull away. They're growing up. They need to do that. They need to start pulling away from you to become adults. And they start doing that anytime after 13 or 15, around then. That's when they start to pull away. And it's very natural. So the 2 most important skills to remember when you're parenting teenagers, number 1 is the most important skill, is listening to understand and show empathy. You do not listen to gather information to lecture with. They will shut you out and not tell you anything. So they already know your advice anyway. They're not stupid. They don't want your advice. If they do, they'll ask for it. And even then, be careful with it. What should I do? I would have said, I don't know. What do you think you should do? And then we discuss it. So that's the number one skill, is effective listening. The number two most important skill with teenagers is negotiate everything, pretty much everything. I should have a third one there too, is don't sweat the small stuff. Save your energy for the big stuff. I should put that down, shouldn't I? I don't have it written down anywhere anyway. Yeah, that's the third one. Don't sweat the small stuff. Yeah, I'm going to write that down. Where should I write? I've got so many different pieces of paper. Teen skills. 3 of them. Okay. So there you go. Anyway, if you want to hire me, I don't have a course for parenting teenagers yet. One day I hopefully will. It would be a big one though, because they go in so many different directions. It's harder to do and you have so little control over them. So that's why I'm very slow to get that course out. That's still coaching. They're my favorite age. I built my business on dealing with teenagers. So they're my favorite age. It's never too late. You can always get respect. But you don't do it. You discipline young children to get respect. You get respect before you even consider disciplining a teenager. If you want to discipline a teenager and they don't respect you, good luck with that. Let me know how that goes. Do you give in to them when they prefer one parent? What do you mean? Do you give in to them? What do you mean by give in to them? And they go back and forth. I love you more. I love you more. I remember my kids used to say, they would, because I'd be goofing around and then they'd say, oh, well, you love her more than me or something. If my son was getting on my nerves or something, I'd say, yeah, right now I do. I love her way more than I love you. Absolutely 100%. And he'd go, oh, mom, like, didn't work. Can't manipulate me. Then the other way around. You love him more than you. Yeah, right now I do. Yeah, he's not getting on my nerves. He's not chatting in my ear all the time. So yeah, you gotta have a sense of humor with kids too. When you've got that kind of relationship, they just go, oh, can't manipulate her, can we? So yeah. So what I'm saying to that is you sometimes prefer one kid to the other too. So that's quite normal. And usually the leader is I'll be honest, the leader is the one they tend to go to. The leader is often the fun one too. So there's usually a leader and a pleaser. There's very rarely 2 leaders. There's usually a very strong leader, maybe not so strong a leader, but there's usually a stronger leader than the other. And that's the one the kids go to right through the teen years. They tell you everything. There's two different parenting styles, the old-fashioned authority and the new pleaser parent style. They're complete opposites. The old-fashioned authority parent style is not bad. They tend to rebel in the teen years, but then they grow up and appreciate what you did for them. You're raising strong individuals. The pleaser parent style is a total disaster. It's a big gong show. They're raising self-entitled snowflakes with mental health issues. They go into school. You taught me. I didn't like the way you look at my kid. You didn't favor him. Oh my God. It's this entitlement stuff. That's really trendy right now. I get it. That's what I'm up against, right? I saw that coming 30 years ago with the participation awards. That's when it first started. Participation awards for turning up. Are you kidding me? And then parents would even complain because their kid didn't want to go that day and they didn't get an award. They didn't even turn up and they got a participation award. This is what parents are doing? Like, are you kidding me? Anyway, I just thought, are you freaking nuts? I remember seeing that coming. And I said, whoa, we're in trouble. And here we are. Mental health among young people is at an all-time high. It's an epidemic because of the pleaser parent style. Totally, 100%. I saw that coming. I don't do either one of those. I'm the leader. I give respect to get it. And you're best friends with your kids. You're fun. But they look up to you. You're like a mentor. They look up to you. They kind of want to be like you when they're little. And then by the time they're teenagers, they're very strong because you've raised them to think for themselves. That's what I teach. So it's not the authority, but if you're going to err on either side, the authority or the pleaser, go authority. The pleaser is an absolute gong show. Oh, it drives me nuts. It just picked up steam because it was feeding the moms, made them feel good. Talk to your kids about all their feelings and go in and you protect your children. Roll out the red carpet. Make life easy. How do we make chores fun? Why would you want to make chores fun? That doesn't make any sense at all to me. You want to teach your children that not everything is fun. Not everyone's going to be rolling out the red carpet for you. You don't want to raise people that when they're on a bus at 30 years old, you didn't validate my feelings. I'm just a bus driver, lady. Like, look what you're doing to your kids if you raise them like that. It's just a disaster. Anyway. I'm very opinionated. It's just through experience. I've been doing this for so long. I've been working with kids for 51 years now. And when I saw this coming, I thought, what is going on? It's crazy. "34-month-old doesn't listen?" Right. What do you mean by that? Like, yeah, they don't. It's about actions. We all learn through consequences, though. If we don't pay our rent, we get kicked out. If we speed, we get a ticket. If we don't wait in line, those 20 people waiting behind us might beat us up. There's consequences to it. That's what keeps us all in line. So yeah. Okay. I host. Oh, you're not going to like my answer. Just a sec. I got to get this up here again. Okay. I host some friends and their toddlers once a week, and all our kids keep saying mine to all the toys. Well, I've been through that. We had play groups, we used to call them mummy groups, mom and baby groups, and we would get together. But when the kids started becoming toddlers, we all separated. It's a lot because we couldn't socialize. All we were doing was trying to manage the toddlers. That goes my top 5 tips for toddlers. Thank you very much for that title. The 4th one is stop trying to figure them out. They are crazy. Yeah, they're going to go mine. Yeah, they're going to do that. You throw a whole bunch of toddlers together and expect them to get along and you want to socialize? Like, that's an unreasonable expectation. All we were doing, we realized we weren't talking anymore. All we were doing was chasing our toddlers around all over the place. So we just kind of split. I was in several different play groups, and that we all split up when they were toddlers. And you just sort of paired off with certain moms that you got along with, and your kids got along. But yeah, that's a lot to ask. How do you control a whole group of toddlers so you can sit and relax and have a cup of tea? Yeah, can't be done. I remember, I'll tell you a funny story. I lived in Australia. That's where I had and raised my kids. And what was I going to say? Oh yeah, no, I was thinking about something else. Sorry, but anyway. And I was new to Australia, and my son was like just a few months old. And so I was in this brand new play group. Now, we'd already been to it. We all went to each other's houses, and it was my turn to host it. So I think I'd been to 2 or 3 of them. So they all turned up, and it was like 10 o'clock in the morning, and all these moms turned up with champagne and like alcohol, 10 o'clock in the morning, and they're pouring champagne. I'm like, what the hell's with these Aussies? Like, I was confused. It was Melbourne Cup Day. Now, if you know anything about Australia, Melbourne Cup Day is like the biggest day of the whole year. It's a horse race down in Melbourne. And they celebrate it. Basically, all of Australia stops to watch the race, and everyone bets on it. They had like betting going, and I thought, what's with these Aussie mums? They were gambling, and they had alcohol at 10 o'clock in the morning. That was hilarious. I didn't know what the heck they were doing. Anyway, they were laughing at me after that. Another thing that was funny is when my son turned 1 with the same group, I didn't know how to sing happy birthday in Australia. They go, happy birthday to you, happy birthday to so-and-so, happy birthday to you. And then I leaned over to my son to blow out the candles, and they all went hip, hip. They always go hip, hip, hooray afterwards. I didn't know that, so I interrupted it, and all I heard was hip, hip, hip. What are they doing? But anyway, so yeah, it just struck me as funny. But yeah, they're gambling and drinking at 10 o'clock in the morning, these Aussie moms. I thought, well, they got it figured out. Doesn't listen when I ask them. Yeah, I think if they're taught, I want to go on and on about this one, because it's like you just expect to say something, and your kids are just, okay, I'm going to do it. Where's the reason behind it? Where's the consequence if they don't do it? We all learn through consequences. We all learn that if we don't do that, there's a reason. Like, I always taught my kids, you got to do what you need to do before you can do what you want to do. So they knew that. Like, they never would have asked me for anything unless they knew everything was done. Like, they never would have said, can we watch TV if their room wasn't cleaned up? Like, they just wouldn't have asked, because they knew. I would have said, have you done your chores? Sure. As soon as you've done your chores. So I was never telling them to do their chores. They just knew sort of the right thing to do, and they just did it. Hip, hip, hooray, LOL. Oh, so many things happened to me in Australia, like, because I just didn't know. There's a lot of slang there, and I got really caught up in some big, funny slang stuff. One of them was I went to a party, and there was a kookaburra outside, and it was, starts laughing, and I didn't know how to pronounce it. I knew what it looked like, the word, but it was at a party in front of all these people, and I said, oh, there's a kookaburra. They all went, what? A kookaburra. Oh, God, it was so embarrassing. And plus, I had no North American friends at all. I was there for about 20 years. I was married to an Australian. My kids were Australian. I had no North American friends, none. None from Canada, none from the States. I was completely ensconced. So, yeah, I got laughed at a lot. Is there another word I could use instead of consequence? Why? I don't know what you mean. Kids learn, they can, well, I don't know what you mean. Why do you need another word for that? Someone actually said to me, I don't like to use the word no. What word could I use instead? I don't know what you mean. Like, what's wrong with the word consequence? You can use punishment or that's the, oh, what's that? That's what'll happen. That's the end, not the end result. Well, anyway, no, I would just use consequence. Okay, if that's Taylor, you have to hire me for that. I've dealt with that so many, many times, more than I would have liked to. So Taylor, if you want to work with me, you'd have to hire me. That's up above in coaching. I don't discuss that on TikTok. Yeah, I've dealt with that way more than I would like to. A privilege will be taken away. I don't talk like that. You can say that if you want, but what's the point? Kids are literal. Parents get caught up in this stuff. They don't care. They're not politically correct. They're more like me. We says it like it is. Kids just say it like it is. Is 3 years old too young for chores? And if he doesn't, what type of punishment? Okay, chores and then punishment. So I would put 3 years old. I would put down follow chore chart and then have a separate chore chart. Put 3 chores on there, something like this: make your bed by 10 o'clock each morning, so it can't be made at like 10 o'clock at night. But when I say make their bed, I mean, like, my kids had 3 chores every day. They had to make their bed, clean up their room, and put their clothes away, because I did laundry every day. And by the way, I'm more of a minimalist and super organized. So I set my kids up for success. I did a toy rotation system. They didn't have a lot of clothes, and I did laundry every day. So they only had one outfit to put away each day, right? And they only had 5 toys to put away. And their bed was one duvet cover just pulled up. That was it. They were 3 years old and doing all 3 of those things every single day without even thinking about it. They just knew. And if they didn't follow, well, they just did it. But if your kids won't do that, then there's a consequence. They have to make your bed or something like that, helping you. If they won't do that, then 24-hour media blackout. Look at the behavior board. It explains how to do all this, rules and consequences. But yeah, set them up for success. Sometimes people will say, I keep telling my kids to clean up the playroom. And I hate playrooms, by the way. I don't like them. Anyway, I keep telling my kids to clean up the playroom. I say, can you please walk in there and show me the playroom? It's a cluttered chaos mess. I say, I love cleaning and organizing. I say, I wouldn't want to do it. So you're setting them up to fail. You're being unreasonable. That's an unreasonable expectation. You do the hard part, get everything organized, make it minimal, make it easy for them to do. Plus, I like open shelving. Like, I use bookcases for all my storage. So all their toys, and there was a spot for every single toy. And they knew exactly where everything went. It took them to make their bed, put their clothes away, and there was an empty hanger and a spot in the drawer where everything was supposed to go. So I set them up for success. It was very easy to do. And I don't remember them ever saying no. I have no memory of telling my kids to do chores, except when they were teenagers, to do chores or go to bed or do their homework. They just understood that that's just what you do. Because we had a happy home life. They were happy kids. And you just do. They knew that mom would have come up with something, Okay. Cut all contact. My son's going to psychology to figure it out. Yeah, I can't comment on that. That's the bigger stuff. That's only in one-on-one coaching. So I don't just guide. Yeah. I have yeah, I won't go into it. I did specialize in crisis work when I first started my business. So that's all I seemed to deal with was horrible life and death crisis, awful stuff. And then I realized I want to get more into prevention. So rather than they used to call me the crisis queen on TV. I hated that. So I quit doing all that. I mean, I still do it in coaching, but I just quit advertising it, that I dealt with crisis work. And now I don't advertise that at all. But I have a history of doing that. So I'll always do it, but I'll never advertise it. Okay. I know your thoughts on timeout. What are your thoughts on time in when you stay with your child? Well, that's the pool story. It's not, I don't call it time in. I call it, that's your opportunity to bond with them. I'll tell the pool story. I guess you could, I don't call it time in. I don't know what I'd call it. But anyway, the pool story is my absolute favorite story. It's a true story. It explains sort of my whole way of how I set myself up as a leader. That's the best way to explain it. My son, it was his 8th birthday. He had 5 8-year-old friends over, and we had a pool in the backyard. My husband took our young daughter away, so it was just me and 6 8-year-old boys. And all I was doing was counting heads in the pool. That's all I'm doing. And the moms who didn't even know me, they'd come, they saw me at school all the time because I was always supporting the teachers there. So I was always there. So they knew who I was, but they were like leaving our kid with the pool, you know, and they said, "Can we stay?" And I'd say, "Yeah, but don't talk to me. All I'm doing is counting heads." They all left. So I'm a safety nut. So anyways, I'm counting heads. And I said to the boys before they went in the pool, I said, "Okay, before you go in the change," I had a change room outside there. And I said, "Before you go in the change room, the rule is no Whaley in the pool." Whaley was a giant blow up toy. I could have lost 3 kids behind Whaley. I couldn't see behind him, right? He was giant. But because we didn't have a foot pump, we had to blow him up with our mouths. I didn't want to take the air out of him. So I just put him way off to the side. So I said, "Fine, no Whaley in the pool." And they go, "Yeah, whatever." You know, their eyes are spinning. They're all excited. So fine, they get in the pool. Sure enough, one of the kids brought Whaley in the pool. So I said to him, I said, "Whaley, out of the pool now." And he said to me, "No." My son went like this because he knew mom knows how to take care of business. He was looking forward to the show. I was fully clothed in the pool, and I had that kid out right beside me. And I said, "You sit beside me for 10 minutes now." And then all I did was I'm counting heads now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm talking to this kid about soccer, about school, about PlayStation. I'm building him up. I'm connecting with him. By the time the 10 minutes was up, I said, "Okay, time to go back in the pool." I couldn't get rid of him. He kept talking to me. I was his best buddy at this point. There's no way he would have acted out with me now, because now he looked up to me. He liked me. I made him feel good about himself. His self-esteem went up. Okay, now this is a kid who was in trouble all the time. So at school, he was a problem. So anyway, all of a sudden, he's all over me for the rest of the afternoon. Couldn't get rid of him. He was like glue all over me. Now, that, I guess you could call that time in, but during time in, I'm not talking about what he did wrong. Why would I rake him through the coals? I think that's horrible. I think that's mean. He's already been pulled out of the pool, sitting beside me. And then I didn't want to shame him in front of the other boys, so I'm chatting with him like we're best buddies. If you were to shame a kid too, that's humiliating. So I would not have done that. So anyway, we're just connecting. And I'm building myself up as the leader. And then I've got this little kid who's just going to do whatever I say after that. So he's good as gold for the rest of the day. His mom picked him up. She goes, "Oh, was he rotten as always?" And then he just kicked her and got in the car. So yeah, that's what he went home to. But anyway, I guess you could call that time in, but not really, because it's not punishment, because he felt great about himself. See what I'm saying? I think I've heard of time in. Some people have said, I stay out of all that stuff usually. But I think it's when you're sitting with them while you're discussing either what they did wrong or you're ignoring them. So it's negative, whereas I believe in using that time to build them up. And then when I said go back in the pool, I didn't say don't bring Whaley in the pool again. Why would I do that? He would have done it. I would have reminded him, by the way, you're rotten. That's what you're saying to him. So yeah, I focus on the good kid. I deal with bad behavior like that, and then I focus on the good kid. Where you put your energy is what you get. Where you focus is what you get. I focus on the good kid, but I don't take any crap at all. So I don't take crap. So I deal with the bad behavior, but that's exactly how I did it. Fully clothed, I'm in the pool, took him out of the pool. Someone said, "Well, what if he fought with you?" It was so fast, and he was only 8 years old. He was under my arm and out, and they all knew me, like I was at the school. There was no fear there or anything. He was like, "Whoops." Okay, you said we are fosters, and we're told not to use no. That's none of my business. I don't teach foster parenting. It's none of my business. I wouldn't even comment on that. Like, you've got to go with what you're told to do. That's like teachers saying, "Well, in school we're told." It's none of my business what teachers do, what foster parents do. No, I don't know anything about it. Any strategies for teaching personal space? I have an AUDHD son who is struggling to learn it. ADHD or just autistic and ADHD? I don't know what that means. AUDHD, who's struggling to learn it. I don't quite know what you mean by that, but if you didn't say how old he is. I can't answer that. Is he 1.5 or is he 11? So I need an age there. 17-month-old clingy and whiny. They're just toddlers. They're not figure-outable. Don't even try and figure them out. They're going to go through stage after stage after stage. And just, they cling on. I would just cut. I remember I was babysitting a kid who once did that. Basically sat on my foot and I dragged him around the house. Couldn't get rid of him. He wouldn't stop hanging on to me. He had a great time. Thank you. Yes, I've heard you tell the pool story. Yeah, that is, it's not time in though. You see the difference? There's no negativity There's no focus on the negativity. It was all building them up, building them up. That's all. That's the only power I had. When I was working with kids, I can't punish them. That was the only power I had. And that was a safety issue. That's why I did not say, can you please take Whaley out of the pool? What a wimp, eh? This was a safety, life and death thing. Whaley out of the pool now, very clearly. And he said no, and I took action like that. I don't remind. I don't repeat myself. I've always said that. I never repeat myself. I say what I mean once, and then I take action, which is exactly what I did. I would never have said, I said, can you please take Whaley out of the pool? What a wimp. He would have gone, yeah, up yours. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what a wimp. I would never talk like that. That's not a leader. 15-year-old, oh, you're going to hate my answer. 15-year-old son needs to listen more. Any advice? Do you listen? You give before you get with teenagers. And it's like this. Give, 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 get, give, 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 get. It's a lot of giving with teenagers. And how good of a listener are you? Generally, listeners raise listeners. Yellers raise yellers. So it's a bit of a tell. Are you a good listener? Do you listen to understand and show empathy, or do you listen to gather information to lecture with? I've got 3 now. I had 2 most important skills with teenagers. I added a 3rd one just 20 minutes ago. Okay, there's 3 of the most important skills for raising teenagers. Number 1 is listen to understand and show empathy. You do not listen to gather information to lecture with. They're going to shut you out. They won't tell you anything. When you get good at listening to understand and show empathy and then stop talking, they're going to tell you everything. You're a safe place to land. The number 2 most important skill with raising teenagers is you negotiate pretty much everything. And the 3rd one is don't sweat the small stuff. Save your energy for the big stuff. If you sweat the small stuff, you're going to have nothing left for the big stuff. It's okay. They have to learn how to make mistakes. They're exercising their young adulthood. They have to learn how to make mistakes. It's okay to fail. Like if my kids mess something up, I go, yeah, that was stupid. Wait to hear what I did when I was your age. Like, we all mess up, right? We all make mistakes. What would you have done if the boy refused to get out of the pool with you? I knew what I was doing. I knew it wouldn't have happened. I wouldn't have started something I knew if I didn't know I could finish it. I already knew. He was a skinny little kid. I'm pretty strong. I knew I could get him out of the pool. And it was very fast. So he didn't know what hit him. Well, I didn't hit him. Plus, I worked with him a lot. So, and I never touched him at school. I couldn't. But this was a safety issue, right? So. Yeah, he had no choice. I don't start something. I don't start something if I don't think I can finish it with a kid, because I've got to be consistent. I've got to follow through. Now, let's just go there for a second. Let's say it was a big kid, and I thought, let's say they're 12 years old and I couldn't get them out of the pool. I would have asked all the other boys to get out. And then we'll just wait for him to get out. No one's going to get cake or anything's going to happen. I would put some social pressure on him. Yeah. And then I'd make sure the other kids, we all had fun doing something. Or they could all have cake and he would miss out. So yeah, I would make sure. But I have a lot of experience with kids, so I already knew exactly what I was capable of. Like I said, I wouldn't have done that if he was a big, huge kid. What time is it? Oh, okay. I got to get going. Might answer one more. Okay. How can you make siblings stop hating each other? You can't force people to like each other. Okay. They may never be friends, but you can teach them how to get along. The way I did that with my kids was because there was such a big age gap. They had 5 years, a boy and a girl. They had nothing in common. So we did everything together, like as a group. And most of their bonding was laughing at mom. I'm very goofy, very gregarious and out there. So I did a lot of really silly stuff and made a jerk out of myself, like just doing stupid stuff. So they bonded over laughing at me. So we did a lot of stuff where we all looked silly and we all just laughed. And that helps them to get along. You don't, sometimes people will say, well, I think they fight because they're jealous of each other. So I try and do one-on-one time. And I say, well, that's why they fight. You're building resentment. You don't, if everything's going great, yeah, I had lots of one-on-one time with my kids too, but we did a lot together, the 3 of us. So, and then they bonded over laughing. Oh, mom's going at it again. And I'm like, yeah, mom's doing it again. Like it was just fun. So there's nothing more fun than laughing at your mother. I found that out. The funny thing is, I used to laugh at my mother, and I thought, well, I'm cool. My kids aren't going to laugh at me. They laughed at me probably more than I laughed at my mother. So it's just fun. That's how they bonded. Okay, I got to get going. Hi, I just joined. I was wondering what you're doing. I'm a parenting coach, and some people think I'm a psychic. And then I tell them, well, I'm not. And I'll tell you why I'm not qualified to be a psychic. Back in probably 1972, around then, was Elton John, Crocodile Rock. His very first hit came out. And I predicted one-hit wonder. We'll never hear from him again. Elton John. Psychic, no. And another one was, I was working at McDonald's, probably 1976, 1975, and they first came out, in my McDonald's anyway, with drive-thrus and birthday parties. And I said, they're both going to flop. They'll never work. Drive-thrus and birthday parties at McDonald's. So, yeah, I'm not a psychic at all. If you want to know what's going to happen, ask me, and then the opposite will probably happen. Okay, so thanks so much for joining me. If you go in the link above, you can hire me for coaching, buy one of my courses, or download my free behavior board. I'm also filming on YouTube at the same time. That's where these lives are saved if you're interested. So and it's Bratbusters Parenting, the same thing. So we'll talk again tomorrow. And my regularly scheduled lives are up in the link above, as is everything else. Have a great night. Bye now.